is up? That automatic screen switch did not happen. I was was waiting there for a second, waiting for it. What is up, y'all? Uh, man, going doing another live. Here we go. So today we've got Battle of the Sets. Thank you for joining. If you were joining live, feel free to drop your name in the chat. Let me see who's here. If you have any questions along the way or thoughts, anything, just let me know. Put them into the chat, and I'll answer those questions on screen. Just a quick rundown of what this is, what we're doing. So before we get into today's segment, just a quick overview of what I am doing and why I'm doing these lives. You know, it's an interesting thing. So I wanted to challenge myself in May. I told myself I would do a live stream every day for 30 minutes, and I couldn't quite do that. I was out of town without service in the middle of the month, so I took a little break and then I picked it back up. But essentially, I'm trying to figure out what it is that I can do to add more value to the community, like LinkedIn, especially with CPG. How can I connect with you more, get engaged, help the add value and everything? And so I really wanted to push myself. And what we're doing here is over the last 3 weeks or so, I've kind of built out these little mini series, and with the idea that we'll see what sticks. And I might continue to do them as live streams. I might just pre-record them and put them out as content later. That part I'm not really sure of. I'm just taking one day at a time. So the series that we do, we've got newsletter review. So that happens when I put out a weekly newsletter, and if you didn't know, and I share my thoughts on it. So not only do you see the thoughts on the screen, like what the actual newsletter says, but I give you a little bit more behind the scenes, the nuance, and what might not become super clear, like just through reading it on text. Then I do the product review. So a live product review, but not like your typical influencer. I'm not just trying the product, tasting it, and telling you what I think of the taste. I'm really sharing it from a buyer's perspective, what we're looking at when we look at products during a category review or we're at a trade show. Like when we have a product in front of us, what is it that we are looking at? What's going through our head in those 30 seconds to 2 minutes that we're kind of reviewing it. And then the other one outside of today, we're going to be also doing Buyer Hotline. So Buyer Hotline is just a space for you to come, ask your questions, get some tips and tricks live, be engaged with me and maybe a guest that we have on, and just really bring the buyer's perspective out so that you can get the behind the scenes of what it is that goes on in our world and how it affects you in your sales role. And then today we're doing Battle of the Sets. I'm excited for this one. So Battle of the Sets, it is one category, two retailers, and they're kind of head to head, but not really. They are, they're put up next to each other so you can see the visual side by side. But really the idea is, from a buyer's perspective, how do we understand the category merchandising? What is that retailer doing? What do we like? What do we don't like? Where do they have opportunities? And what's going on that could lead to some of these decisions that land on the shelf? So really, again, just giving you that behind the scenes, and excited for this one. That it should be really interesting going through it. I did take the pictures, but honestly, I haven't really done a lot of analysis on it. I really want these live streams to be off the cuff, like my thoughts coming through. So it should be fun. Yeah, I'm excited. So let's get into that, and I'll share my screen here. And as I'm doing that, if you're in the chat, let me know if you saw the pictures already. If you did, which set did you like better? We're gonna be looking at pasta sauce, and we're putting Target and Walmart head to head in this. So let me pull it up. All right, so we've got Walmart here first. And again, I'm gonna just do this all off the cuff. Let me get my screen situated here really quick. All right, we got Jennifer in here from Carbone. This is a good one for you to be here. All right, so Walmart. First things first, the set size itself is extremely large. It's a massive set size. It's 24 feet just for pasta sauce. And let me get here. So here's the left side of it. This is the first 12 feet when you're entering the aisle from that left side. And then here is the remaining 12 feet. So first of all, the set size. I actually went to 2 Walmarts because the first one I went to was 4 feet. Absolutely insane looking at a Walmart with only 4 feet of pasta sauce. And then honestly, as I looked out, like kind of looked at the store as a whole, they were so heavy on non-food and clothing and electronics and everything else. Their grocery department was so small. It was insane. And 4 feet. I should have gotten a picture of that, but they only had like one SKU of Rao's, whereas this has a full block pretty much. And then they had like 5 SKUs of white sauce from different brands and different varieties. So very, like, that's a whole nother conversation there. But let's get back into this one. So I see Gavin's here. What's up, dude? And of course, you got to make it bigger. I mean, it's Walmart. You go big or go home. Except for that small store for whatever reason. That's a one-off, I think. But yeah, so first thing that stands out, Gavin already called it out, like the merchandising itself, like the size is one thing, but when you actually look at it, this screams Walmart, but also screams inconsistency. You know, if you're going to put cardboard out, put cardboard out. And if you're going to leave it in the tray, at least cut the front. Like, that's my thought. I don't know if you guys have Winco where you're at. They're very value focused. They want to make everything as easy as possible to put all of the money towards the lowest price on the shelf. And this is kind of part of that same mindset, but they're doing it so inconsistently. So I don't love the cardboard at all, generally speaking. So not a big fan of this, but if you are going to do it, I would at least cut the front so that way you can face the product. But I don't know that they necessarily, well, these are pretty well faced for the most part, except for a few SKUs. Like, these are actually, the labels are pretty straight. So yeah, the merchandising style, I don't like, not a huge fan of it. What I would say here is obviously leading in to the aisle, you've got your private label, then it kind of goes to your big national brand block, which is all Prego. Then it looks like you go to your next one, which is Ragu, and a little bit of Classico. You've got Bertolli running across the top. A little bit of weird nuance here, but if you're going to be doing vertical blocks like this, having Bertolli run across the top seems a little weird. Like, sometimes weird shit happens, but that just to me seems like an opportunity where they could have blocked that a little bit better. Then as you get into the second, you got Carbone into Winco. Dang. I'll have to go check that out. I live like literally, there's a school field and then the Winco lot. I'll snag a picture for you if I go in there. All right, so looking at this last section here. So you've kind of got all your conventional block together, and then you have your premium. You have Rao's, you have Carbone. I believe that is Mezzetta, which I wouldn't necessarily classify as premium, but it is a class than the Ragu and the Prego for sure. And then the way they did it was a block of white sauce. So all the white sauce together, all of the premium kind of grouped together, and then your national brands kind of blocked together as well. I find coming from the natural side, this idea of having all premium together, I kind of like it, but also it kind of sucks for these brands down here in the bottom, like Truff. Like, what a good product, but also really expensive, and you're just stuck there on the bottom shelf. Like, very, very interesting to do it that way. I always liked, I mean, again, coming from a natural retailer, we would put the conventional on the lower shelves and then have the natural and like premium up towards the eye level. So that would kind of go across, and you would maybe do your brand blocks side by side. So maybe Rayos and Carbone, and then you have like Prego, Ragu, if we were to carry those items. All right, really quick, got a comment here. Do you think Walmart merchandises as many facings because of days of supply to mitigate out of stocks? So there's definitely something to that. However, I would say for 24 feet of space, they filled this up with a lot of variety. So when you're looking at this, and like even in the Rayos, you see 3 facings on average, maybe a couple with 4, 2. But when you look at these guys, for sure, they're moving more volume, but they stuck a lot of items in this set for 24 feet. They could have easily gone 4 to 5 facings on every item and not have to worry about pack out at all or anything. And I think that efficiency piece is definitely part of the equation. I don't see many items here except for maybe these guys. Whoops. These guys in the corner were very limited on facings, which will probably create some backstock. Honestly, with this much space, a little weird that you would have any items with backstock, but it is what it is. Sometimes with like the brand blocking, stuff doesn't work out as well as you'd like to think or like it to be, but that is what it is. All right, any last thoughts from you guys before I move on to Target? I think the Target one is very interesting. All right. Well, one last thought for me. I'm curious what you guys think. When you're a customer walking through the store, do you see the top stock or like the items on the shelf, on the top shelf that is for backstock and inventory? While you are answering that, I'll go on to the next section here. But I've always find that interesting. Like, we as a retailer would always talk about that, like, oh, we don't want it to look bad, or we don't want it to, like throw off the shopping experience. But I'm curious, like from a shopping experience, do you guys ever notice that? And Gavin, you probably do because you worked in retail, and whether you guys had it or not, maybe let us know if you did that. All right, and as we get on to Target, we've got a 12-foot set, so half the space, and probably 50, maybe 40% of the items. Way more facings, and just an insane amount of facings. And I mean, I can guarantee you that Target is not selling enough product to hold this many facings. I think this is a big miss for them. But before I get into that, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Rayos block right at the beginning. That is insane. This one SKU has a thing. There we go. This one SKU has an entire shelf, 13 facings, I think is what I counted. And when you look at this, I think the general idea here is that, Target, somebody mentioned it in the comments of my post, actually, is like Target will lead with the category leader. So when you're walking into the aisle, you'd see a big block of whatever that category leader is. And then they move into the national brand or their private label, however they, kind of navigate through that. But the thing on my mind is I'm still wondering, I don't know Target's model here. Maybe they're just leaning in because it's Campbell's and they have a good partnership across the store. But maybe my question is, how much money is being exchanged to get this block at the front? Rayos is doing great. I get it, but that is an extreme, and I don't understand it. So I also don't know the inner workings, right? I don't know what Target strategy is. I don't know what their programs are. So, I can't say that Campbell's is necessarily paying for that space, but I think it's kind of likely. And I would say, my personal opinion on this, where, we've talked about this kind of thing before, the idea of having a brand pay for space. Like, I actually just made a post about this about a week ago, and it just came up right as I took this picture, like afterwards. And like, how does a brand earn shelf space? And one of the ways is paying for it. You can pay for it. You can pay for it indirectly, which is maybe marketing programs, right? Like, you're a good partner, you lean in on your marketing programs and you do bigger discounts. And so you kind of naturally increase your sales due to that. And maybe that increase of sales gets you the category leader spot. And then the last way, which I think is probably the most like respected way, is just velocity, like pure velocity. Your product is so good, it is selling enough for the brand or the retailer to say, hey, we need to bring in more SKUs, or we need to expand the facings, get a nice block, put you at eye level, whatever it is. Like, that's the ultimate win, I think. And most brands probably live in that middle section where they're indirectly buying the space by paying into the merchandising programs, and they do help grow their sales through that way, but it's not just a pure velocity move. All right, so let me take a look at comments really quick. LinkedIn user, I'm only 5 feet tall, so I couldn't reach it if I tried. It looks better without the backstock up top, for sure. Yeah, I don't think it's intended to shop, but I remember having top stock when I was at a couple of my stores, and it's an interesting way to do it. Gavin said he had top stock, and that style of merchandising, the picture is as close to the merchandising standard we had across the store. So top shelf and product were as close to the same height across the entire set, and that would flow into the next set. And he said, a good note here, Robert, what are the adjacent sets to pasta? Is it consistent retailer to retailer? Good question. I did not look to the pasta. I didn't look far enough over. That's a good call out. When I start taking these pictures, I'll have to look at that and see how they do it. My guess is on this aisle, I can't remember. I want to say like oils are probably one of them, but I don't know that it was at Walmart. I don't think that was the case. So good call out there. I'll have to take that into consideration for the next pictures. And then Gavin, you said likely both Walmart and Target has category captains who are helping create the most effective set for this year and next. Very good call out. Big companies like this, they have category captains, which is from a brand typically, or like a brokerage, and they come in and they help with building out these sets. And the idea is that they're unbiased. Obviously, there's going to have some bias in there towards the category captain. They're going to try to influence it in a way, and it is the category manager's job to kind of cut through that. Like, if this would be something where I would say, as a category manager, there's no way efficiency wise, like, we don't need that many facings on these. Like, this raises up another question to me of, could you reduce this down to 8 feet and expand something else? Now, that's a whole different conversation because it's a domino effect. If you reduce this by 4 feet, what's next to it? Like Gavin was saying, is that necessarily the category that you need to give it to, or is it a category on another aisle? And then that a whole another question. So, sometimes you get locked into these situations like this. And I saw that when we were reviewing the new season's nut butter, probably didn't need 8 feet for nut butter. But if you went down to 4, then you don't need another 4 feet of jam either. So then you go to the next category. What do you need an additional 4 feet for? It just causes all these different it just causes different domino effects of what's actually happening in the store and how the retailer operates and runs their strategy. So one of the things that I think get locked into is that you also have varying sizes across different stores and regions, and you have this APL, like the authorized product list. So they might not be willing to set up items just for, specific larger sets, and they're okay with letting it go out to, 6, 8, 10 facings, just to kind of make it still presentable, but they know that they don't have the bandwidth or the capability to do these other things and make it kind of fit as the right size. So other thing here, which I thought was interesting, is I see this in Target a lot, but the pushers, like I see it mostly on boxed items, granola bars and cereal and things like that, and definitely in wellness. I don't know that I've seen it on pasta sauce before. So that one was interesting to me. Clearly it's working for the most part. I think it's a little tight on the shelf heights, but for the most part it's working, and you don't see the cardboard. So way better presentation overall. I think that there's got to be something to do with like the springs and things like that, like these little nuances that you might run into. You can see like this jar is there, but it's not pushing forward. Actually, this might not even be a spring. Actually, they might still need to pull it forward. That's probably what it is. I should have looked. I wonder. Oh yeah, it does have a spring. Like it has a pusher. So yeah, very interesting to do that. A little bit risky, to be honest. But so back to the assortment and that conversation. One of the things that, I've seen over the last few of these live streams and talking about the merchandising styles and everything else, is that there's a consensus usually when I post these pictures that there's either too much variety or too many facings, and it doesn't matter what retailer. So it's very interesting when I pull these pictures up and see this. And what I would say here, one of the biggest opportunities is, I understand that there's a strategy to have the category leader at the front. For where I see a gap is maybe not just the category leader, but not the category leading brand, the category leader, like the segment. So premium is clearly a big thing. Rao's is doing great. They're leading that segment within the category. And the other thing is that there's a lot of other brands that are doing well too. Like Carbone, Jennifer was talking about that earlier. It's only got 3 SKUs in here. They have a full lineup, and they've only got 2 facings each when you've got 13 on this one SKU that will never run out. So, to me, it seems like there's an opportunity. If Rao's is the big player, I would leave it, maybe even these 3 shelves or 4 shelves, and then put Carbone and Katie's and these, I think that's the protein pasta sauce. Yeah, it's like a collagen protein. But put those premium items up here on the top shelf and let them earn their space, but in that segment, in that block. That's where I see an opportunity. Definitely space or room to improve the efficiency and bring some more items in as well. I do think that there is some kind of monetary benefit to having Rao's here, whether that is a direct lump sum payment or they're participating in their marketing program. So clearly that's why they didn't go that route. But that's where I see opportunity in like serving more of the category and the segment versus just one brand. Gavin said it's a chain reaction of moving parts and massive resets across the store. Yep, it's crazy. So he did that with jams and jellies. It's there's so much that goes into it. Check out that comment when you get a chance from Gavin. Uh, yeah, it's wild. And if depending on the size of the retailer, like I don't know if you guys have Kroger's where you're at. For me, it's Fred Meyer. They do resets all the time. They do reflows on all their stores like very frequently, but they have the resources to do it. They have the teams. They typically, will do it overnight. So you don't really notice it too much other than the product has moved. So yeah, it's depending on the size of the retailer, it can be very different and what their merchandising strategy is. When it's a smaller chain, 5 to 20 stores, you have to do it in a completely different way, and it's a really big burden to do that. All right, so like one last call out here, they do have a white section, so they are looking at like a consumer decision tree. They're not necessarily brand blocking, they're blocking by the segment. And so again, premium, you've got your premium kind of blocked together, you've got your conventional, and then you've got your white sauces. So I do like that. As far as generally speaking, the segment is going to be the thing that people go to first before a brand in a lot of different situations. Sometimes it is brand that's higher up in the hierarchy, but generally speaking, if I'm looking for white sauce, I want to look for all of the white sauces, not necessarily look at Rayos or look at Prego and happen to find their white sauce. So good move there. And that was at both retailers. And then last thing for me, I think you just wrap this up, is did they serve their customers well? And I would say out of the two of them, I think probably Walmart served their customer better than Target is serving theirs. I think Target is leaving opportunity here. Like I said, the variety, like getting some more items in, adjusting the space allocation, getting a little bit tighter on the efficiency. So it's not way spread out like 13 facings on a SKU. I think there's just definitely opportunity there. And for Walmart, they have a ton of volume, but they have that ton of space and a ton of variety. Like they hit everything. So I think that within that, I feel like they did a better overall job with the variety and serving their customer. Sure, there's some things like cardboard and how they merchandise, but I like that that they had all the space and they didn't just punch it out to 6 to 12 facings per SKU. They actually put some intention into the blocks and the items that they carry in each one. They have different size formats that serves their customer, different customer types. So I think overall, Walmart serves their customer, like their specific customer, better. And Target is missing because I think there's still an opportunity with that premium sauce that they are missing out on because they're just over skewed on Rayos and not necessarily looking at how they could expand and bring other options in there and offerings. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. You guys have any last thoughts before we wrap it up? Looks like Jennifer said super premium is what is driving the pasta sauce category growth. So there's definitely opportunity for Target to expand Carbone. It's not biased at all, but I agree with you. I don't manage Target, but it's clear there is opportunity for us and other premium brands. True. There's definitely opportunity for other brands in there as well as Carbone. There's plenty of space for them to play in here. All right, guys. Well, we're at time, and I loved having the conversation. Good comments here. Thanks for joining and engaging. Tomorrow I'll be on doing the buyer hotline. So come bring your questions. Let's get going on things. I'll bring a couple of topics that I can talk about or questions that have been asked and be able to answer those. And I'll see you tomorrow.